From R.D. Smothers Wealth Management, this is The Retirement.
When you retire, if you want an exciting life, you need a boring investment strategy.
Matters.
If you enter into retirement without a plan for income, you're not retired, you're simply unemployed.
Podcast.
Hey, this is your host, Dale Smothers, and you're listening to the Retirement Matters Podcast. My hope is that you will find the information you need in every single show on how to do one of the three things: either saving more money more efficiently, planning better for your future where you can live in retirement worry-free, or my favorite, how you can live a happy and fulfilled life in this life you have been given. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it listening to this episode of the Retirement Matters Podcast. On this week's episode of the Retirement Matters Podcast, we discuss a topic that is perhaps the most important thing about getting ready for retirement, and that is having enough. You can never kick a field goal if the goalposts are constantly moving back. It would be hard to score a basket in basketball if the goal is constantly moving. And if we measure our readiness for retirement against a horizon, we will never arrive. This is the first step, is knowing what is enough. And the first step is talked about in this episode. So I'm going to very quickly run through a couple of things here for housekeeping, and we're getting to the episode. I would love for you to like, subscribe, or comment on these episodes. Share them with people that you believe need this type of advice. And if you yourself would like to talk to somebody on our team, we're one phone call away. 270-600-PLAN will get you in touch with a team member. I would also welcome you to jump on our website, where you can find more information about our Retirement Atlas Toolkit and information about our firm. And if you would like to recommend topics that you would like to hear on the show, we would be happy to take that information and build a show specifically around the thing that you are most concerned about. Feel free to submit those by sending an email to contact@rdswealth.com, contact@rdswealth.com, and we will get to work on a show. And just to let you know that we received it, we will send a reply back right away. So without further ado, let's enjoy this episode together, titled How to Have and Keep Enough in Retirement. Enjoy the show. Good morning to you. I hope you are doing well and you are ready to start discussing all things retirement matters. We are in the throes of March Madness. The Ides of March is a political term, but the madness of March is a sports term that comes every single year. And this is one of my favorite times of year. I love basketball. We're going to relate to basketball in some analogies as we discuss how you should be investing in your retirement journey, especially as you approach the income phase. If you're not familiar with what the income phase, we are also going to discuss that, and you will know very quickly if you are in or approaching income phase. And if you are, the stock market should not be a casino for you. There is a way to make money in good years and not lose nearly as much money as the market in bad years. We can show you how, and we're going to discuss a couple of those tools today. We're also going to jump into target painting on income and what it means when you enter into income phase to paint a target and why it's necessary to not waste some of the energy that you have inside of your portfolio. A lot of that all revolves around the plan. We'll discuss taxes. We'll discuss what is going on in this market that we're in today. We're going to be talking about every bit of that. But before we jump into anything relating to the financial side of retirement, let's talk about life in retirement and what it takes to be a successful retiree is perspective in retirement. And this perspective comes from purpose. It comes from a self-centered, true north, inner guiding principle. And in my opinion, this is only my opinion, that true north should be pointing to Christ, to the love of Christ, to Jesus who came, bled, and died for our sins We are in the time of year where we begin to think about Easter and all that was done at Easter. That is the starting point for what right and wrong is. And granted, if people do us wrong, we are to extend grace. We were given grace freely, and freely we should grant that grace to others. I'm a big proponent of this. And without a purpose, without a guiding principle, without a little bit of insight or perspective in retirement, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can be extremely miserable and stressed and worried because we don't have priorities in check. And this section of every show is meant to really help us keep those things in check, keep what's important in front of us. So today's Pause for Positivity is actually a short story that I've told before on this show, no doubt, but it's good to do a little refresher of a businessman who was on vacation. He had decided to walk away from the corporate world for about a week and visit a small Brazilian village where he found himself sitting on the beach, bringing in the sunrise. And as he sat there, he saw a Brazilian fisherman. This fisherman looked to be a young man in his 30s, and he was rowing a small boat towards the shore, having caught quite a few big fish. Now, the businessman realizes that it's fairly early in the morning, and he was impressed and had to go over and ask this fisherman how he had caught so many fish so early in the morning. And he thought, well, he must have been fishing all night. And as he goes over to the young man, he says, "How long does it take you to catch this many fish?" The fisherman replied, "Oh, it's just a short while. I started as the sun began to rise." And he said, "Well, then why don't you stay out at sea longer and catch even more?" The fisherman looked at him and said, "But this is enough to feed my whole family for the day. And if I'm lucky, will even hold me over to breakfast in the morning." The businessman then said, "Well, so what do you do for the rest of the day?" The fisherman replied, "Well, usually I wake up early in the morning and I go out to sea to catch these fish, and then I go back and play with my kids. In the afternoon, I take a nap with my wife, and when evening comes, my wife and I go out to the village where we begin to play guitar and sing with all of our friends, where we dance throughout the night." And the businessman says, "Well, that sounds very interesting, but would you mind if I offered you a different worldview?" The fisherman obliged and said, "Sure, what do you have on your mind?" So the businessman began by saying, "Well, you see, I have a PhD in business management, and I believe I could help you be more successful as a person. From now on, you could spend your time at sea trying to catch as many fish as you possibly can for the entire day. And when you have saved enough money, you could buy a bigger boat and catch even more fish. Soon you will be able to afford more boats, more employees, and you can set up your very own company. Now, with your skill and your knowledge of the sea, I could see this growing into a multi-million-dollar business where you would have a production plant canning these fish and distributing them to the world, perhaps even into the United States, where you could make major money. And then you have moved from this little old village in Brazil to where you could have a headquarters in any country in the world." The fisherman looked at him, a little bit amazed and very intrigued. And he said, "And after that, what would I do?" Well, the businessman laughs heartedly. "Well, after that, young man, you would be living like a king in your own house. And when the time is right, you will go public. Your company will begin to exchange shares on the stock exchange, and you will be rich." Now, the fisherman, with his eyes a little bit more wide, said, "And after that?" "Well," said the businessman, "after you've went public and made all of this money, you could retire." And the fisherman was a little puzzled. He said, "And after that?" The businessman said, well, after that, now that you've retired, you could buy a house by the sea, wake up early in the morning, catch a few fish, then return home and play with your kids, have a nice afternoon nap with your wife, and then when evening comes, you can join your buddies to play guitar, sing, and dance throughout the night. The fisherman was slightly puzzled. He looked at the businessman and said, "Isn't that what I'm doing already?" The moral of this story is that there is a point in which enough is enough. Now, as a retiree, we often learn this, but it's too late to enjoy the kids or the wife. If we're not careful, it could be too late to enjoy our own life. This is going to be the flow of our entire show today. Understanding that enough is enough, and without this purpose, without this understanding, and without a purpose more than just making more money, retirement is never a goal that you attain. We've got to stop moving the goalpost in life. Now, I am preaching to the choir here, but I'm telling you, the more we can put this in front of us, the more we can live life through that prism, the more we can be on that time clock, which is not known by anyone other than our Creator Himself, the more we will get out of life. So I ask you, are you in retirement or approaching retirement with the mentality of, I've got to have more, I've got to have more? And if so, why? For what purpose? For what purpose is there to have more? And I'm not against having more. I would rather you have enough. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to discuss more about how to work towards enough, how to know when enough is enough, and how to make sure that the market isn't taking that money when you have finally reached enough. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with more Retirement Matters after this.
Thank you for listening to Retirement Matters, presented by R.D. Smothers Wealth Management. We help folks just like you retire the way they desire and live happy in retirement. If you'd like to speak with us, maybe even just ask some questions, give us a call at 270-600-PLAN. That's 270-600-PLAN. And if you enjoy the information in this show and would like to hear more, you can access previous shows by searching for the Retirement Matters Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. That's the Retirement Matters Podcast, available to you 24/7 wherever you listen to podcasts. We also produce a weekly newsletter. Receive it free to your email inbox by signing up online at rdswealth.com. That's rdswealth.com to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Our phone number, once again, 270-600-PLAN, and online at rdswealth.com. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter.
All right, welcome back to the show. I want to give you a real quick bit of information that we will be discussing multiple times throughout the next few weeks, and this is a Social Security and retirement readiness class that we will be holding on April the 28th at the Taylor County Public Library. This is going to happen from 6 o'clock to 7:30, April the 28th, Taylor County Public Library, for all of our listening audience in the Campbellsville area. Campbellsville, Marion, Hodgenville, Greensburg, Lebanon, of course, in Marion County, Adair County, Columbia. You're going to want to come to this class if you are close to retirement and really inquiring about Social Security claiming strategies. What has changed for you as an educator who was maybe told at one point you weren't going to receive Social Security, but now you think you might? Let's talk about that at this class. How to prep for retirement as a whole. There are tools specific to your retirement income phase that you're entering, and we will discuss those in this class. It's going to be a class that you're certainly going to want to attend, free of charge, public library. More information will come. But in this class, we are going to discuss the idea of setting a target for income. This is a necessary first step, and a lot of times people will miss it, even those who are working with advisors. And it's simply because you're working with an advisor who is growth focused. Their idea of financial advising is growing your money. Now, granted, there has to be some growth in accounts for you to accomplish what you're after in retirement, but you've got to know how much growth is required to accomplish the objectives that you have laid out in retirement. Again, how to have enough. And one of the primary ways to do that is to begin to think through the lifestyle you want to lead in retirement. I can't tell you if it's time to retire, if you have enough money to retire, or what investments to invest in as you begin to retire until we have a targeted income. Working towards that targeted income looks like this. I want you to think about the lifestyle you want to live in retirement. I want you to think about the income you bring now in if you were working. And I want you to think about the only thing changing is that you no longer have to work. Can you live the lifestyle you desire if you didn't have to work, but you got the same income? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then we have a very good first step towards completing the first step in building a retirement target income. If the answer is yes, then what you have right now coming into the household becomes a target income. If the answer is yes, but Dale, I really don't even need that much, then we can begin to see what it is that's coming in extra that wouldn't be needed in retirement. And if the answer is no, Dale, it would take more for me to retire and leave the lifestyle that I desired in retirement. I want to live a different lifestyle than I did while I was working, and I've saved all of this money to do that. That's not a bad answer. No answer is wrong. It's your answer. It's your life. It's your desires. What we want to build is a retirement that allows you to retire the way you desire. And to do that, we have to work towards the targeted income. Painting the target is the first step. If the answer is I need more, then we have to figure out how much more, because more is not an answer. If you missed the first part of this show, more is never the answer. The answer needs to be how much is enough. It reminds me of just a couple of days ago, I believe it was, I told my youngest boy to go brush his teeth before bed. He went in to brush his teeth. Now, he's 5 years old. He's going on 6. If you don't know, typically a 6-year-old should be able to brush their teeth. I agree with you 100%. He's had a couple struggles in life, and he is growing tremendously. He's a gift. He is a miracle walking, and we love that. But this 6-year-old went in to brush his teeth. I heard the water go on. I heard the water go off. Yeah, I thought it was kind of short, but it's okay. They have one of those mechanical toothbrushes, both Andrew and Matthew. They go jump in the bed. I come in. I tell them a Bible story. They go to sleep. I walk into my bathroom, and there is toothpaste everywhere. There's toothpaste in the sink. There is toothpaste on the counter. There's toothpaste on the water faucet. There's still toothpaste on the toothbrush. And it's not just a little bit. It's a lot. As if he just squeezed it out all over, not realizing that he had enough. He wasted toothpaste. We have a lot of people who don't know how much is enough. We were not trying to paint the bathroom with toothpaste. We were simply putting enough on the toothbrush to brush our teeth. But for a 6-year-old, the word enough doesn't exist in their lexicon. For a retiree, it may be difficult, especially for those who are approaching retirement. It may be difficult for us to realize we have enough. And one of the first steps towards realizing we have enough and doing that with comfort and peace and no worry or fear is making a plan. And we've got to do the first step in that plan, which is determine how much we're going to need every single month. Once we have that, we can do some simple calculations, some things that are fairly complicated, but with our planning software, because we at R.D. Smothers Wealth Management specialize in the income phase of retirement, we can help you calculate how much is enough. Now, it's not just as simple as saying, okay, Dale, I make $6,000 a month now. I need $6,000 a month for the rest of my retirement. No. We have to calculate inflation. And we have a way to do that for you and with you to, again, tell you, do you have enough? So if we were to carry this theme throughout today's show of how to make and keep enough for you to retire, the first step in all of that is to figure out how much enough actually is. And the first sub-step in that equation is how much do you need on a monthly basis to accomplish your goals. You see, you didn't need a lot of toothpaste to brush your teeth. But if we were going to coat the entire mirror in toothpaste for whatever reason, well, that would require a little bit more. We have a lot of these types of objectives in retirement. One is how you want to live in retirement. Another is whenever you die, who do you want to leave money to? Another one is how do you want to handle health care in retirement? What Medicare planning should you be doing? Well, that all depends on your desires and your needs for health care. You know, there is a problem that requires a whole lot more. If we compare these two words, more versus enough, there is always a need for more long-term care income. Because when you get to the state of long-term care, when you can no longer take care of yourself, it is going to take a whole lot more income than it did just a few days ago. But do you have enough? And this is where putting a plan together, realizing how much income we need, how much money we have, and do we have enough to satisfy that, yes or no? And if we do we have then enough to go into tax planning and or healthcare planning? And if we have enough in the account to satisfy income, then we will oftentimes turn our attention towards the end of life expenses. And how do we satisfy those? I'm here to tell you that it is possible. If you catch it early enough, it is very possible to put a plan together. And I'm not talking about doing it at 20 and 30. I'm talking about doing this at 50 and early 60s. It is possible for you to set aside a small amount of money and forever erase your fears for long-term care expenses. Small amounts of money here. We're not talking major amounts. I'm talking about $150,000 or $200,000 that immediately at that point can alleviate your fears for long-term care because you have $1 million or $2 million worth of checkbook writing ability for long-term care. It's huge. Now, the multipliers are not the same for everybody. It depends on the health and the age, how long it is before we have to turn on the long-term care expense plan. But the bottom line is we need to be planning for it. And if you don't plan for those things in retirement, you will never be able to say, I have enough. And without knowing if you have enough, it's hard to retire as optimally as you would desire. We're here to help. 270-600-PLAN. Let's start working on a plan to get you to the point where you can say, Dale, I have enough to retire, and I'm ready. If that's you, again, 270-600-PLAN will get you towards the first step in building that retirement you've always imagined. Don't go anywhere. We're going to a 30-second break. When we come back, we're going to be discussing what's going on in the market right now, how it could certainly invoke some fear, and we're going to tie in a little bit of March Madness to picking stocks. More on that right after this.
You're listening to the Retirement Matters Show with Dale Smothers. Dale is the founder and president of R.D. Smothers Wealth Management. We specialize in building retirement plans that allow you to walk away from the worry of running out of money. If you'd like to chat with a member of our team, you can do so absolutely free by calling 270-600-PLAN. That's 270-600-PLAN. Visit us online at rdswealth.com and be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter.
Welcome back to the show. I want to apologize if you continue to hear this dinging noise that's going off in the background. I'm not quite sure what that is, but there's some tab somewhere that doesn't like what we're doing here. So if you continue to hear a dinging noise or some sort of bell, forgive me for that. I'm not sure where that is, and I don't know how to get it to stop. But I'll tell you what we do know how to do. We do know how to plan for retirement. And once you have enough to retire, oftentimes it's difficult for us to go to sleep at night because we're always concerned about retirement risk, such as market risk, taking those monies and never giving them back. This type of market risk is called volatility. Preferably, we would call that negative volatility because it will change your account balance for the negative. You lose money, said a different way. This type of loss in the stock market is a lot of times why people never feel like they have enough. They may have achieved enough, but tomorrow, Dale, that might not be enough because the market decided to wake up in a bad mood. Well, here's the thing. I want to talk to you for a second about a way to invest your money without fears and worries of the stock market erasing the gains you've already made. There is a way to build what we call the risk-on, risk-off portfolio, where you have money that is not at all subject to market movement on the downside, but still has great upside potential if the market continues to climb. Now, we build this portfolio for our clients in a way to where they can walk away from the fears and worries of the market, not stealing their money, and just go live life. One of the things that we use inside of this is called a defined outcome ETF, and this basically gives us a range in which we know for the next 12 months we are going to earn between this number and this number. And we can structure those for the client depending on what they're after. But I want you to think through it like this. It's an easy way to consider picking stocks if we maybe think of what we're in right now, March Madness. March Madness is famous for the bracket. 68 teams entering into a bracket. I don't even know how many there are this year. 64, really. And then there are some play-in games. We'll say it like that. 64 teams entering into a bracket. And we all begin to fill those out. And some may put some money with those and put them into pools. And I'm just not a big gambler. I was actually raised to not gamble at all. You certainly don't want to put any money up that you are not willing to lose because the chances are you don't win. And this gamble is that you pick the right teams along the way. But what if this was a win or lose type of scenario where you either won $100,000 or you lost $100,000? Go with me on this analogy. You win $100,000 or you lose $100,000. Depending on if you pick the right team. All you've got to do is pick the right team that wins it all. Would you take that bet? Now, most people would say no, especially if it was your $100,000 that you had to put up to get the odds. You put up 100. If you're wrong, you lose all 100,000. If you're right, you get 100,000. That's very similar to what it's like for some people investing in the stock market. Now, I've said this before, you don't have to know the stock market to make money in the stock market. You can accidentally pick a good stock, but you've got to know the stock market to not lose money in the stock market. And that's where RDS Wealth comes in. Because there comes a point in your retirement journey, typically right after you have enough, that you just want to make sure you don't lose the money you've already made. And if you can make a little along the way, great. But if you lose the money that you've made, it hurts you worse than if you make more money. This is the point that we talk about where losses hurt you more than gains help you. So let's equate this to the scenario of picking the right team. What if instead of saying you have to pick the right team or you lose your money, what if I said of the 64 teams, you have the ability to pick 32 of those, any 32 that you desire, and if those 32 teams, any of those 32 teams win, then you get half of the $100,000. You get $50,000 in addition to your 100 you put up. But if the other 32 teams that you didn't pick win, if those teams, any of those teams win the national championship, you still do not lose your money. You just don't win. That is the type of investing we help our retirees partake in. The ability to win if they were right, but not lose if they were wrong. And by they, I mean us. We help you pick, and we give you the insurance against losses if they occur. Now, this is a certain type of strategy we call the risk-off strategy, and we like to work that into just about every one of our retirees' portfolio in one way or another. It makes a whole lot of sense for those people who are in a position of having enough. All right, guys, and just like that, we are at the end of our show. I cannot believe that it went this fast. I'll tell you, I am really excited about the upcoming class, the Social Security and Retirement Readiness class that we're going to be doing here for our Campbellsville audience, where we will be discussing things like when to take Social Security, the changes that have recently taken place in Social Security, especially if you're a teacher. If you're over the age of 60 years old and you are close to retirement, within the next 5 years you're planning on retiring, you need to be signing up for this class. We've got limited space available, free of charge at the library, the 28th of April. It'll be held at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. It'll run through to 7:30. We'll have questions and answers. We'll have a lot of really good information there to deliver, and it will get you at least one step closer to the right track towards retirement and Social Security readiness. And we're going to discuss some tools that can help you protect your hard-earned money once you have decided you have enough. And if that is you, give our team a call, 270-600-PLAN, and we will get you in front of a team member or get you signed up for the class as soon as possible. So until we talk again, whether it's in person or right here on this same station, always remember, save money, plan well, and live happy in retirement. God bless.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Artie Smothers Wealth Management are not affiliated companies. Investing involves a risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Artie Smothers Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Artie Smothers Wealth Management.